In this video, we're going to talk about the Ecamm Live Preferences Stream tab. So let's go over to Preferences by clicking on Ecamm Live, clicking on the Preferences option here, and then going to the Stream tab. This tab is going to show you the information on how the quality is going to be of your live stream and also the recording itself. So you have an option. You can record only, stream only, or record and stream as well. Now I'm going to show you in a couple of seconds that option that allows you to figure out which one of those three combinations you'll be doing. But just know that this stream tab is actually going to tell you what your recording quality is going to be at the same time. So whether you're streaming or not, this is the setting here on the stream tab that will be your base recording quality. So under the stream size option here, you'll have multiple. You'll have low all the way up to 4K. I'm using 1080p because the majority of videos on YouTube are quite visible at 1080p and very high quality. And most of my users are actually on mobile devices, which means that 1080p is going to be super, super crisp and clear. Now, a lot of people would love to use 4K resolution, and that's great. You can go ahead and do that simply by switching to this option here. Now remember, that's also recording as well as your streaming. And I'm going to go through a couple of little boxes here and kind of wrap around back to that, because this is going to affect that quality of that file that you have recorded onto your computer system, and it's going to change that resolution that you're sending out to that platform. And not all platforms receive 4K signals, so you have to keep that in mind. Now the next option here is the stream shape, and you have all the way from extra wide 2:1 ratio, the standard wide 16:9 ratio, and all the way to what we call a vertical or a portrait format, which is tall 9:16 ratio, which is what your mobile phones, generally speaking, are going to be using. So that's more for the social media side of things. So by default, I pick 16:9. However, if you want that cinematic look with the black bars on the top and the bottom, you'd go over to the extra wide setting here. And also, if you are recording special formats or streaming special formats, you can go ahead and choose even the tall format if you know that you're only going out to Instagram, for example. The next option here is called frame rate, and this basically is how many frames per second is your video or your stream going to be, and that goes from 24 all the way to 60 frames per second. Now, generally speaking, in North America, we have been choosing 24, 30, and 60 frames per second. Our standard is 30 frames per second, 24 for a cinematic look. And in Europe and other parts of the world, generally speaking, you'll be choosing 25 and 50 frames per second. Now, because of the advent of the internet, this really is not going to make a huge difference. So we talk about NTSC versus PAL back in the old days. That's kind of gone now with the internet and watching videos online. However, the frames per second that you do choose can affect the way that your video looks in terms of how it's being captured. So electricity in North America is running at a certain frequency and a certain rate, and therefore certain light bulbs will be using that frequency. And so we need to match our video frame rates, usually at 24, 30, and 60 frames per second. And in Europe and other locations that use a 220 volt, as well as different hertz, they're usually at 50 hertz is what their electricity is running at. Your light bulbs will operate at different frequencies. This is generally, again, old school type of stuff with halogen-based light bulbs, not LED light bulbs. So depending upon what frequency you set here, you may or may not see lights flickering, or if you're recording televisions, you'll see scanning lines happening on that. So just adjust this accordingly. Again, North America, choose these certain sets, and Europe and other parts of the world that have a different electricity grid hertz, then go ahead and choose the other different frame rates that I just mentioned. However, if you want buttery smooth video, so you can see this video is being recorded at 60 frames per second, you will actually be choosing 60 or 50 if you're in Europe and other parts that have that different electricity rate. If you want standard frame rates, you'll be generally choosing 24, 25, and 30. This gives you, it's still a great quality video, except the frame rate's a little bit different, so it's not as buttery smooth. And you're going to choose this option here just because it's a standard, and as well as the 24 and the 25 kind of gives you that cinematic look. So you'll have to have the video equipment to be able to do that type of quality output, as well as your internet feed. So if you choose 30 frames per second, it's going to use half the amount of bandwidth as 60 frames per second. And we're going to go into that next section here below. Now, these next two options here says use high quality video and high quality audio mode. Generally speaking, you're going to leave these checked. You're going to leave them enabled because most of our computer systems are capable of using and creating and encoding high quality video and audio. However, if you have a slower machine, even some of the older original M1 Mac minis, you might have to disable the high quality video and audio just because this is really, really hard or harder on the processing units, the CPU and the GPU on your Mac. So if you find that some things are not working very well, it's kind of your videos are slowing down or your audio and your video is not synchronizing properly, you might want to disable these too. By doing that, it also helps to decrease the actual stream requirements itself. You know, not as much data is being encoded, so the stream or the upload speed is going to be not as high. And now that brings me to the next section here. You can see here the required speed for one destination for me at these settings, so 1080p, 16:9, 60 frames per second, high quality video and audio, is going to be about 8.2 megabits per second. And every time that you start Ecamm Live, it's going to do a speed test, and I've got a 54 megabits per second upload rate. And that's going to say, if I need 8.2 and I have 54, is this enough? Now, my general rule of thumb is about 50%. So generally speaking, if I know that my stream requires about 8.2, I really should have a minimum of about 16 to 20 megabits per second in this overall test. Now, just because I have 54 megabits per second doesn't mean that I should go streaming out to, let's see, 7 or 8 locations. Even though 6 locations here says, yeah, 48.9 and I have 54, I might be maxing that connection out. I really should max it out at maybe 3 to 4. So about 50% of my actual upload rate. Now, what you'll notice here is while I have one destination showing at 8.2 at these settings, you'll see if I go up to 4K, I'm going to need a higher amount, right? I'm going to need 21.2 megabits per second. If I go back to 1080p, and that's 8.2 at 60 frames per second, 30 frames per second, I need around a half of that. So that's 5.9. So you will adjust this setting up here based on what your computer can do, as well as what your internet connection can provide. I hope you're really enjoying this Ecamm Live Masterclass because this has been an absolute joy for me to actually create. And the reason why is because I just love Ecamm Live and I love the whole aspect of content creation, and I hope that you do as well. So please go ahead, leave some comments below. Let me know how you feel about this. Let me know if you have other questions about the specific topic that I'm sharing in this video. And another thing that I really want you to do right now is I want you to go ahead and scan this QR code or click the link in the description below, because this is where I'm going to be housing not only just this Ecamm Live Masterclass, but a lot of cool extras that are not going to be found on YouTube. So you have to register for absolutely for free in order to grab this content. It's in my member portal. So go ahead, scan the QR code or click the link in the description, and I will see you on the other side. Now, back to the regular show. All right, so that is the stream tab. We have all these settings now in check. Now I want you to go over to this next video over here, and we're going to take a look at what's on the recording tab.